What you're about to learn isn't about willpower. It's not about ignoring how you feel or pretending things are fine when they're not. This isn't about forcing yourself into some fake happy mindset or trying to fight every negative thought that pops into your mind. The real secret to making sure that nothing and nobody can disturb your peace lies much deeper. It's something that most people miss because they're too busy looking for answers outside themselves, not realizing that real change can only happen from the inside. Maybe you've noticed how some people seem to go through life with steady calm, no matter what comes their way. They deal with big challenges, loss, and uncertainty, yet somehow stay centered. On the other hand, some people feel overwhelmed by the smallest things, caught in their own reactions and feelings. Is this just about luck or personality, or is there a hidden reason that makes the difference between those who manage their inner world and those who are ruled by it? This is where many people misunderstand. They think reality is something objective, that things just happen, and that emotions come directly from those outside events. But that's not how it really works. Everything you go through, literally everything, is shaped by how you see life, the beliefs you've held on to for years, and the emotions you were never taught to handle. It's like wearing glasses that color everything in your view. No matter what's really out there, you'll always see it through those lenses. And if those lenses are clouded by fear, guilt, or anger, then the world will seem to reflect just that. Not because life is unfair, but because you can't see past what's happening inside of you. Now here's the part no one tells you. It's not about avoiding pain or running from tough emotions. It's not about trying to be numb to everything around you. It's about changing the meaning you give to each experience. It's about reshaping how you see the world and learning how to use every emotion as a chance to grow instead of something that keeps you stuck. The truth is, reality isn't something that happens to you. It's something you interpret. And once you understand this and begin to take charge of how you interpret things, you realize you can choose how you respond in any moment. That's when true freedom begins. Today, I'll help you see exactly how to do this, not with vague ideas, but with real principles that people have used to find deep inner peace. A peace that doesn't rely on anything outside of them. You'll learn how to turn fear into clear thinking, how to use so-called negative emotions in a way that helps you, and how to live with a calmness that doesn't get shaken, no matter what happens around you. What you're about to discover can change everything, but only if you're willing to look inward and question things you've always believed to be true. Because in the end, it's not about what happens to you. It's about how you choose to experience it. And when you learn how to shift that experience, you'll see that nothing and no one will ever affect you the same way again. Imagine how life would feel if you could take off those invisible glasses that twist how you see things. What if you could view the world without carrying the weight of your fears, old beliefs, and hidden emotions? The human mind is like a maze, full of thoughts, reactions, and feelings shaped by deep layers we rarely take the time to explore. Carl Jung, a well-known psychoanalyst, understood this better than most. He described the mind like an iceberg. The part we're aware of, our conscious thoughts, is just the tip. Below the surface is the subconscious, a huge space filled with old memories, pain, doubts, and the stories we tell ourselves about life. Jung said that what we ignore inside us doesn't go away. It ends up shaping our lives, as if it's our fate. Think about how fear shows up in your life, often without you noticing. It shows itself as hesitation when you ask yourself if you're good enough to try something new. It hides in putting things off when you're afraid to fail. It appears in relationships where you give more than you should because deep down you're scared of being alone or rejected. Jung taught that fear, like all emotions, isn't your enemy. It's a message in disguise. It's pointing towards something you haven't faced yet. But instead of listening to these messages, most people push their emotions away. They tell themselves not to cry, not to be angry, to always stay strong. That's where the trouble begins. What you push down stays with you. It doesn't vanish. It turns into a weight you carry silently, a voice that keeps whispering doubts in the back of your mind, a wall that stops you from moving forward, even if you don't realize it. Think of emotions like a storm. The wind blows hard, the rain falls heavily, the sky turns dark. You try to stop it, block the wind, hold back the rain, fight against the force of it all. But the more you fight, the more tired you become. The storm doesn't end because you resist it. It passes when you let it move through. That's how your inner world works too. Every emotion is just passing weather, not a life sentence. But most people stay stuck, trying to control their emotions or avoiding what's inside them. They drown out their feelings with work, entertainment, or relationships that only bring short-term comfort, avoiding the real things they need to face. But what if you did something different? What if you stopped running from your emotions? What if, instead of turning away from your sadness, you sat with it for a moment? What if you asked your fear what it's trying to tell you? Every emotion has something to say. Sadness often means it's time to let go of a person, an idea, or a dream that no longer fits. Fear shows you your hidden beliefs, ideas that say you're not enough or that you'll never get what you want. Anger, which many people try to hide, can be a sign that your boundaries have been crossed, that something in your life isn't respecting who you really are. When you start seeing emotions as signals rather than problems, something inside you shifts. And when your inner world shifts, so does everything around you. Now picture a moment where you usually react without thinking, maybe an argument, a tough meeting at work, or a situation where you feel judged. Instead of reacting right away, try pausing. Take a breath. Watch the moment as if you're someone standing on the outside. Ask yourself, what part of me is feeling this? Is it really what's happening outside that's upsetting me? Or is it something inside me that was already there? These questions can completely change how you see life. Because once you understand that nothing outside you has any power unless something inside gives it power, you take your control back. Jung spoke about the idea of a silent observer, a part of your mind that stays calm no matter what. That part doesn't get caught up in emotions or chaos. It watches. It knows. And when you connect with that calm part of yourself, you realize no one and nothing can shake you unless you let it. Every time you feel upset or disturbed, it's not because the world is cruel. It's because something inside still needs your attention and healing. And that's where real peace comes from. Not by changing the world outside, but by changing how you experience it inside. Once you master this, the storms don't scare you anymore. You know they'll pass. And you know that with each storm comes a chance to grow. Something inside you still needs attention, and that's where the real key to finding deep, lasting peace lies. It's not about changing the world around you, but about shifting how you respond to it. Once you learn this, storms don't shake you anymore, because you know they don't last forever, and within each one, there's a chance to grow. If you take a closer look at your thoughts, you'll start to see that many of them aren't really yours. They were picked up at some point in your life and accepted without question. But here's the truth. You don't have to keep believing them. Just imagine that starting today, you choose to change your inner story. Instead of telling yourself that you're not enough, you start to accept the idea that you've always been capable. The only thing that's held you back was the story you kept repeating in your mind. Carl Jung once said that the unconscious mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. It simply reacts to what it's given. So if you start feeding your mind with thoughts that build you up instead of tearing you down, your outside world will begin to change too. Let's look at a real-world example. Picture someone who has spent their life afraid of not being loved. Maybe as a child, they learned that love had to be earned, by always being helpful, putting others first, and ignoring their own needs just to be accepted. Now, as an adult, They carry a heavy feeling that they're never quite enough, and they keep pushing themselves harder just to avoid being rejected. How do they stop this cycle? The first step is to become aware of it. Jung spoke of shadow integration, bringing the hidden parts of ourselves into the light. When this person begins to see the pattern, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of being rejected, they start to take their power back. They begin to see that their value isn't based on what others think, but on how they see themselves. And then, something changes. They begin setting clear boundaries. They learn to say no without guilt. They finally put themselves first without fearing that others will leave. And the most amazing part? The people around them start to respond differently. They're no longer appreciated only for what they give, but for who they are. That's when the pattern breaks. Now think of someone else who has always believed that failure is something to be ashamed of. Every time they try something new and don't get the outcome they hoped for, they beat themselves up with harsh thoughts. They compare themselves to others and feel stuck, believing life keeps putting impossible challenges in their way. But what if they began to see failure not as something shameful, but as a natural part of learning? What if they understood that every mistake is really a lesson in disguise? Their entire outlook on life would begin to shift. Jung once said that life doesn't happen to us, it happens through us. If this person starts to see each setback as a stepping stone rather than a punishment, their fear fades away. They're no longer scared to try again because they realize their worth isn't tied to success or failure, but to the growth they experience each time they try. Most people don't realize that every thought we focus on is like planting a seed. If you keep watering seeds of fear, doubt, and resentment, those are the trees that will grow and take over your life. But if you choose to plant seeds of courage, peace, and belief in yourself, your life will begin to transform, and not in some distant future, but right now. Next time a limiting thought shows up in your mind, don't just accept it. Pause and question it. Ask yourself, is this really my belief, or is it something I picked up long ago? If it's not serving you, you have the power to let it go. And when you do, you'll notice that the only reason those thoughts had power over you was because you allowed them to. The most powerful part of all this? You don't need the world to change in order to live a different experience. You only need to change how you respond to what happens around you. Someone who sees life as nothing but hardship will always find evidence to prove it. But someone who sees life as a journey filled with lessons will find growth and meaning even in challenges. Jung also said, "What you resist persists." That means the more you fight against life, the more stuck you'll feel. But when you choose to go with the flow, when you open up to the idea that every experience has something to teach, the pressure begins to disappear. Now imagine living like this, without the fear of failure, because you've accepted it doesn't define who you are. Without the fear of judgment, because you finally believe that what really matters is your own opinion of yourself. Without fear of the unknown, because you trust that you'll handle whatever comes your way. That's real freedom. Not the kind that depends on outside things, but the kind that grows from the inside out. Once you free yourself from the invisible limits your mind has set, nothing and no one can trap you again. And in that moment, you realize that the peace you were always searching for was never somewhere else. It was inside you, just waiting for you to notice it. When we avoid looking at our hidden pain, it shows up in other ways: anxiety, repeated problems, inner conflict. But when we finally face what we've been running from, we see it's not the enemy. It's a part of us that simply wants to be understood. Think about a fear you've had for years. Maybe it's fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough, or fear of failing. Every time you try to step beyond what's familiar, that fear shows up, telling you why it's better to stay where you are. But have you ever asked yourself where that fear really comes from? Who does that voice in your head belong to? Maybe it came from something that happened in childhood. Maybe it's something someone once said to you. But remember, that voice is not truly you. It's just an old echo that keeps playing in your mind. Now you can try something different. Instead of fighting that fear or ignoring it, stop and listen to it. Ask, what is this fear trying to show me? Maybe it's telling you to trust yourself more. Maybe it's a reminder that you don't need others to tell you you're worthy. Or maybe it's time to stop running from what you really want. When you stop pushing your feelings away and instead become curious about them, fear begins to lose control over you. You're no longer a puppet of old pain. You become the creator of your present. Let's apply this to another real moment. Say you're in a conversation that matters a lot, maybe with your boss, your business partner, or someone you care deeply about. You feel nervous, your heart races, your mind fills with doubts. In the past, you might have tried to ignore those feelings, or let them guide how you reacted. But now, you try something new. You breathe deeply. You notice the emotion without letting it take over. You ask yourself, what part of me feels this way? And what am I telling myself right now? Then it hits you. This fear isn't coming from the present situation. It's an old fear, showing up again. And this time, instead of reacting from fear, you speak from a calm, centered place. You express yourself clearly, with confidence, because now you're not speaking from past pain, you're speaking from your most aware self. That's where transformation begins. When you stop fighting with yourself and instead accept every part of who you are, you begin living a life that is truly yours. Seeing the world differently doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means learning how to find calm within, even when everything around you is a mess. It means realizing that the strength you've been trying to find out there was always in you, waiting for you to take it back. And once you see this clearly, nothing can affect you in the same way again. You finally understand that true freedom isn't about having control over the world. It's about letting go of the idea that you need to. Just imagine waking up one day feeling tired, not just from lack of sleep, but from the emotional weight you've been carrying around for years. It's the kind of tired that comes from holding on to old stories, old fears, and old pain that no longer serve you. But now you know, you don't have to carry it anymore. You can let it go, piece by piece, and in doing so, return to the calm, strong, peaceful version of yourself that was always there underneath. Thanks. Here's your script with slight word changes while keeping the tone, meaning, and length intact, and still using simple English. I kept the flow the same and made sure it stays over 9,000 characters. Be dismissed, maybe it's a conversation that didn't go the way you wanted, maybe it's a remark someone made about you. Words that stay in your mind longer than they should, or maybe it's a mistake you made, something you still can't forgive yourself for. A regret that keeps coming back. You find yourself asking why despite all my efforts do other people's thoughts still impact me this much? Why do I keep replaying moments in my head that I should have already moved beyond? The answer isn't out there. It's not about what someone else did or said. It's about how you understood their words, how your mind built a story around the moment and decided to make it part of your identity. This is the main struggle for many of us. We think the cause of our pain exists outside in the situations around us, in people and the luck we were handed, but Carl Jung explained clearly that everything that troubles you in the outside world is really a mirror of something inside you that still needs healing. It's not the criticism that causes pain, it's the part of you that still questions your own value. It's not the lack of attention from others that makes you upset, it's your own desire for approval that hasn't been met. And until you deal with the deeper cause of what's bothering you, you'll keep getting stuck in the same patterns, living through the same emotional loops again and again. Now imagine that one day you decide to take a different path. Instead of reacting instantly when something upsets you, you take a second to pause, you breathe deeply, and instead of letting anger or sadness take over, you ask yourself, why does this bother me so much? Which part of me is feeling this emotion? When you do this, you start to see more clearly. The real issue was never the other person or the event itself. It was always the story you built around it. You begin to understand that the fear of being rejected didn't begin today. It started a long time ago when you first tied your self-worth to being accepted by others, you come to realize that the guilt you carry isn't truly yours, it's a pattern you picked up, because at some point you decided that making mistakes meant you weren't good enough. And this is the turning point. This is where you take your power back. Instead of drowning in your feelings, you begin to ask, if this emotion were a signal, what would it be trying to tell me? Maybe it's telling you that you need to trust yourself more. That it's time to stop looking for approval from others and start giving that approval to yourself. Maybe it's showing you that it's time to stop living based on what others expect and start creating your own path. The key isn't just about what you feel, it's about what you choose to do with those feelings. And in that moment, instead of feeding the emotion with the same repeating thoughts, you decide to respond from a different space. Now imagine another moment you're caught in a tense argument with someone close to you. The words exchanged are getting sharper, feelings are heating up. In the past, you might have followed the same old path, raising your voice, letting anger take over. But this time you remember something Jung said about the shadow self. What upsets us most in others is often a reflection of something inside us that we haven't fully faced. Instead of reacting with more anger, you take a breath and ask yourself, what part of me is being triggered? Is this person really making me feel this way, or is there a deeper wound being touched? And in that moment, instead of being controlled by your emotions, you become the one who guides them. You're not pushing your feelings away, you're just choosing how to handle them. This small change in your way of seeing things can change your whole life. You stop feeling like life is just happening to you, and instead you begin to understand that each emotion, every disagreement, every tough moment is a chance to learn more about who you are. You no longer act out of fear or doubt, but from a place of awareness, realizing that nothing and no one has true power over your peace unless you give it to them. And when you reach that understanding, when your actions come from awareness instead of reaction, you make an amazing discovery. Many of the problems that once felt so heavy start to fade, not because the world has changed, but because you now see it differently. This is where one of the most important ideas comes in: emotional responsibility. Jung once said, until you bring what is unconscious into the light, it will keep guiding your life, and you will call it fate. That means that every feeling you have, every thought that shows up, every way you respond to the world is a moment you can use to take back your story. It's not about pretending you don't feel hurt or sad. It's about asking, how can I grow from this? How can I use this pain to make me stronger? Now think back to a time not long ago when you felt upset by someone. Maybe they didn't give you the attention you hoped for. Maybe they said something that stung. Instead of getting caught in a story of being wronged, try something new. Close your eyes and picture that person not as an enemy, but as someone who unknowingly showed up to help you see a truth about yourself. Ask, what part of me brought this experience into my life? How can I turn this into a moment of growth? And when you do this, you begin to notice something deep. The real insight isn't about the other person, it's about you. You realize that you don't need others to approve of you to feel good enough, that your peace doesn't depend on anyone changing, that everything you've been searching for has always lived inside you. This is the moment you take your power back, when you stop pointing fingers and start using every emotion as a tool to become more you. This is when you finally understand that peace isn't something to be found somewhere, it's something you grow within you, that only you can decide who you are and how you feel. And when that truth lands, the outside world no longer has control over you, because for the first time you're steering your own ship. You're sending a new signal to your mind, showing it that the old habits of worry, fear, or frustration don't have to run the show anymore. Every little choice you make with awareness rewrites a bit of your mental pattern, replacing limiting beliefs with ones that open doors. But this is where many people stay stuck. They want to shift, but they hold tightly to the same stories. They keep repeating, I'm just too sensitive, I always take things to heart, I can't help my reactions. Do you see how these kinds of beliefs become a part of your identity? As long as you keep saying them, they'll keep shaping your life. But what if you started to challenge them? What if each time you thought, I'm too emotional, you paused and asked, is that really true? Or is it just something I've said so many times that I now believe it? This is where the real change happens, changing the inner story. It's not about empty positive talk, it's about creating real experiences that prove to your mind that something new is possible. Jung talked about the need for integration, for bringing what's been hidden into the light. And that means instead of pushing away your pain, you welcome it, you look at it clearly. And instead of acting like it's not part of you, you accept it as a chapter in your life story, because in the end, words only have the strength you allow them to have. If someone tells you that you'll never make it, those words only hurt. If deep down you're afraid they might be right, but if you've done the deep work, if you've built solid belief in yourself, those words pass by like the wind. They can't stick, they can't weigh you down. But this brings up a powerful question. How do you get to a place where nothing shakes you? It's not about burying feelings or lying to yourself. That doesn't work and only builds a weak shield that breaks easily. True strength is found in being open, in allowing yourself to feel fully without letting those feelings take charge. Jung once said, true freedom comes when you stop tying yourself to every thought and every passing Feeling when you can notice what you feel without letting it define you, you reach a whole new level of knowing yourself. Let's think of a situation. Maybe you've often felt like people take advantage of your kindness, that you give a lot, but don't get much back. Before, this would leave you feeling used and drained. But now you don't stay stuck in that old story. You ask, where am I not setting healthy limits? Why is it hard for me to say no? Slowly you begin putting boundaries in place, not because you're angry, but because you value yourself. You learn that when you show yourself respect, others follow that lead. When you stop giving in out of fear, when you lose certain people, you often gain something even more precious, your peace of mind. This is a place many people never manage to reach because they keep waiting for the world to improve first. They hope others will be more kind, that situations will become easier, and that life will stop testing them so much. But the real truth is that deep change always begins from the inside. And once you start changing, the whole world reacts to this new version of you. It's like adjusting a radio to a new station. When you stop sending out signals of fear, doubt, or frustration, you start attracting experiences that match your new energy. Suddenly, things that used to feel impossible, like calmness, confidence, and clear thinking, start to become your normal state of being. Now take a moment to picture what your life could feel like if no one and nothing could disturb your inner peace. If every time someone tried to pull you into a fight or argument, you stayed calm. If when hard situations came up, instead of quickly reacting, you were able to look at them with calm and space. If every emotion that appeared in your mind was just another wave passing through the wide ocean of your awareness, unable to throw you off balance. That sense of peace you're imagining isn't some unreachable dream. It's actually possible. But only if you choose to commit to the process. Only if you decide to stop handing over your power to outside things, and instead begin building a strong inner space that no person or situation can shake. And when you truly welcome this shift, you'll start to notice something amazing. The world won't feel so threatening anymore. People won't have the same power to hurt you. The things that once made you anxious will start to lose their hold over you because you're no longer seeing them through a lens of fear. You'll finally be in charge. And when you feel what that kind of freedom is like, you won't ever want to let anyone or anything steal your peace again. Because when you finally give yourself full permission to put your well-being first without feeling bad about it, everything in your life begins to flow more naturally. Jung spoke about something called individuation, the process of becoming your real self, free from the outside influences that have shaped you over the years. And that journey starts with being brave enough to listen to yourself, especially in a world that's always trying to tell you what you should believe, how you should feel, or what you should do. Just think about it for a second. How many times have you ignored what you deeply wanted because you were afraid of letting someone else down? How often have you pushed down your feelings because you were taught that feeling too much is a weakness? How many times have you acted in a way that wasn't true to you, just to be accepted by others? Each time you've done that, without even realizing it, you gave more power to the outside world than to your own peace inside. The real issue isn't that the world tries to affect you. It always will. The real problem is when you start moving away from your true self just to please others. That's why practicing inner silence becomes so important. Jung believed our minds are full of constant noise, an inner conversation that we almost never stop to question. But what if you made space every day to just sit quietly with yourself? No distractions, no phone, no scrolling through social media, no need to be doing anything. Just you, being with yourself. In those quiet moments, you start to see things you didn't notice before. You become more in touch with what you truly feel, what needs to change, and what your intuition has been trying to tell you all along. Imagine someone saying something cruel to you. In the past, you might have reacted right away, feeling as though their words cut deep. But now, instead of letting that comment decide how you feel, you take a breath and ask yourself, do I really need to take this to heart? Or is this more about them than it is about me? In that pause, something shifts. You feel a kind of distance. Not because you don't care, but because you've finally realized that what others say or do doesn't have the power to define you. This kind of clear thinking doesn't happen in a single day. It takes practice, a steady choice to return to the position of the observer instead of being tossed around by every single emotion. And here's the truly interesting part. When you start living this way, the outside world also begins to change. Things that once felt too much to handle lose their intensity. People who used to upset you don't bother you as much anymore. And most of all, you start to feel a sense of lightness you maybe didn't even think was possible. But there's one more truth you should know. This shift doesn't mean you'll never feel pain, anger, or sadness again. The difference now is that you won't stay stuck in those emotions. You'll begin to see them for what they are, temporary visitors, not fixed truths. Like waves in the sea, strong for a moment, but always moving on. Instead of trying to fight the tide, you simply let it pass, trusting that after the storm, calm always returns. So what can you start doing right now to build that kind of inner strength? First, check in with yourself whenever you feel a strong emotion. Instead of reacting right away, ask yourself, what part of me is feeling triggered right now? Not to blame yourself, but to understand yourself better. Then, let the emotion be there. Don't force it away or pretend it's not there. Just breathe through it. Observe it. And over time, you'll see how the emotion starts to loosen its hold on you. And above all, never forget this. Real peace isn't found in perfect situations or in getting approval from others. It's something you create inside yourself with every choice, every thought, every single moment when you decide that nothing outside of you can take away the calm you've worked so hard to build. That is true strength. And once you know what that feels like, you'll never see the world the same way again. If you found this message helpful and want to keep exploring more ideas like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and share this video with others. Together, we can keep learning and growing and discovering insights that have the power to truly change our lives. Don't forget to leave a comment with your own thoughts or suggestions. See you in the next one.